Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 17th, 2017 regular council meeting for the City of Brook Park. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Scott?
Here.
Bergia?
Here.
Salvatore?
Here.
Troyer?
Here.
Powers?
Here.
McDonald? Here. Mancini?
Here.
Would everyone please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everyone. We'll move to item number C, which is approval of minutes of the preceding meetings. We'll go to item number 1, which is a special council meeting that was held on September 26, 2017.
Motion to approve those special council minute meetings from September 26th.
Support.
There's been a motion to approve. It's been properly supported. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
What do you say?
Yes.
Yes.
He said yes.
Bergia?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for September 26, 2017 have been adopted. Move to item number 2, which is a special council meeting that was held on September 28, 2017.
Motion to approve them special council minute meetings from September 28th. Sorry, Carl.
Support.
Thank you.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve. It's been properly supported. Council, any discussion, corrections? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
Bergia?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for September 28, 2017 have been adopted. We'll move to item number 3, which is a caucus prior to the council meeting that was held on October 3, 2017.
Motion to approve them caucus prior to the council meeting, October 3rd meeting minutes. Support.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve the October 3rd meeting minutes. Is there any discussion, corrections? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergia?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for October 3rd, 2017 have been approved for the caucus. Item number 4 is the regular council meeting that was held on October 3rd, 2017.
Motion to approve those regular council minute meetings from October 3rd.
Support.
There's been a motion to approve. It's been properly supported. Is there any corrections, additions, discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Bergia?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for the regular council meeting on October 3rd, 2017 have been approved. That concludes the items under letter C. We'll move to letter D, which is reports of standing committees. We'll go to aviation and environmental. Councilwoman Powers.
No reports this evening. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll go to finance committee. Councilwoman McDonald.
No report this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to legislative committee. Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Legislative Committee has, 2 items on tonight's agenda. And again, if you'd like anything pulled out of Legislative Committee, just let me know by email or let clerk know, and I will pull them out on the next caucus. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Parks and Recreation. Councilman Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see everybody here today. Good to see everybody in pink. Great cause, looks great from here, so y'all look great, so thank you. Our tackle flag, football, cheerleading, we're coming into our final weekend. It's been a great season. I get to my little team in a minute, but all 4 teams are fighting to get into the playoffs, so this weekend's gonna be a big tail test, so we're looking forward to all 4 teams advancing. At our senior meeting this morning, we had the modern line dancing with Lou and Nina. It was a great program that the seniors truly enjoyed and learned 4 new line dances. Maybe one of the council meetings will get them here to show us, huh? But co-ed volleyball, ages 8 to 17. We have right now 89 participants registered. Co-ed dodgeball, 6 to 13, we have 72 registered. Both activities begin the first week of November. Our women's volleyball league starts Wednesday, October 24th, or 25th. We have 10 teams this season. Basketball cheer dance registration is currently underway and will continue throughout the month. This year, we have a junior Cavs affiliate. Each participant will receive a free ticket to an upcoming Cavs game and a Cavs jersey. And actually, they start tonight, I believe, in about another hour or something. I ain't sure, but I know they start tonight against Boston. But please contact the rec center for more information. Our annual youth Halloween party and hayride, ages 12 and under, will be this Sunday, the 29th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please bring a non-perishable food item so we're able to make a donation to Audrey's Outreach and make sure the kids bring something to collect their candy in. And on that, my little team advanced to the championship. They're undefeated, but I think we're going to be playing at the same time that party's going. And we got 26 kids and 24 cheerleaders, and that's 7 and 8-year-olds. It's going to be tough little, they're going to miss it. But October's half off. I know we brought this up a few times, and I've gotten a few phone calls on it, so come on in and register, and like I always say, get in shape. The rec will be starting a new program called Welcome Wagon. This program will welcome new homeowners and members to our community. We will invite them to a meeting at the recreation center to meet neighbors, receive a welcome basket with coupons and shopping information inside. They'll also find information about our city, community organization, programs, events, and all kind of wonderful things that the city has to offer. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the Planning Committee. Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Committee has one item on tonight's agenda. It's that lot consolidation on West 140th Street. Again, this is would be an expansion of the business, so it's probably a good idea, as I will be voting to suspend on this tonight, so this business owner can start to expand their business. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Go to the Safety Committee. Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My last report, I spoke about the safety fair, and unfortunately, I left 3 names off of people to be recognized for all their hard work. And I just want to share with those 3 names with you this evening that they worked extremely hard, and these 3 people were really kind of the drivers to put this thing together. And how I forgot to mention them, I apologize, but I am going to mention them tonight. And that's Patty Okar out of the mayor's office, and Chief Foster, and as well as our fire chief, Chief Maud. All 3 of them worked tirelessly to put this event on. And if you see them around town, just bump into them, and make sure you say thanks to them, because they really did a fine job. And again, I can mention that the fair was a huge success. But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll go to Service Committee. Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Service Committee has legislation on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. We'll go to Board of Zoning Appeals. Councilman Scott.
Board of Zoning has nothing on the agenda tonight, sir. Thank you.
That concludes items under letter D. We'll move to letter E, which is reports of special committees. We'll go to Southwest General Health Center trustee, Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just came from Southwest. In fact, I thought I was going to be late for this meeting, and unfortunately, I made it on time. So I'm just going to hit the highlights. I haven't had a chance to put it into a formal report yet, but we did meet. The CEO Oversight Committee met tonight, and we talked about the senior leadership team. We reviewed all the people that are part of the leadership team as far as their performance. We talked about their wage adjustments. We discussed a 3-year goal for Southwest. We discussed the president's performance and the possible extension of contract. We discussed the vice president and chief nursing officer, the senior vice president, chief financial officer, the vice president and chief accounting officer, the vice president of marketing, the chief medical officer, chief operating officer, the vice president of human resources, and the vice president for development. So we had a very lengthy meeting. There's a lot to report, but I don't have it completed yet. Like I said, I just came from there just now. But on the horizon, the things that we're going to be focusing on to continue our mission as far as becoming one of the best hospitals around, and we're focusing on quality safety care, which I mentioned in my last report, employee engagement, physician engagement, partnerships on the horizon, what we're going to be doing in the future, population health management, and also the market growth. and I will keep everybody informed as we move forward. And I will reduce this to a formal report, and hopefully I'll have it for you for next week, or I'll at least submit it to the council chambers. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll go to the Berea Board of Education Committee. Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a short report tonight. School year is going by pretty fast. Wednesday marks the end of the first quarter grading period already. School officials were to have met today and this week to visit other school districts such as Strongsville to check their media center. Also, they were to meet with Brook Park, and I trust that they did, and also with Berea Planning Commission to discuss the high school, and Middleburg Heights to discuss the connector between Middleburg Junior High School and the media center. They have also met with staff at the elementary level and the high school level to discuss what specific needs are desired before construction begins. The school district was to have hosted an opiate roundtable along with Channel 5, Southwest General, police departments, and counselors. 2 presentations were given at the October 9th school board meeting. The athletic director, along with about 20 students, were on hand as they emphasized various words that describe their pledge that says, in part, we will display a superior work ethic and excel in athletics and academics and carry ourselves with class. We will reflect a positive, respectful, coachable attitude, orange and blue standard. They each expressed in a word what it takes to be a leader: effort, attitude, competition, fitness, service, and accountability. The second presentation was from students from Big Creek. They have a goal to collect 2,500 pairs of socks to donate to Audrey's outreach. So far, they have collected 2,359 pairs as of that meeting, which was October 9th. They probably excelled that amount. They call it Socktober. This is a great way of teaching service to others less fortunate, so I commend them for what they're doing. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That concludes items under letter E. We have nothing under F or G. And letter H got dropped from the agenda between pages 1 and 2, but we're not going to drop you from our agenda tonight, Mayor. Got reports and communications from the mayor.
I thought maybe you were excusing me, Mr. Chairman. Seeing as I was dropped off the agenda, I don't have any report this evening.
Okay, council, any questions to the mayor?
We're gonna put them back on next week?
Yes, it will.
Okay, we'll move to letter I, which is reports and communications from departments, commissions, and other public officials. We'll go to our engineer, Mr. Piatek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick update on some of our ongoing projects. Work on Bowfin and Calvin is primarily complete. We're still waiting for landscaping, the grass to come in fully, and some trees to get planted. We're also waiting for some trees over on Phase 2 of Fry that finished up early this year, and Brookdale as well. So it's all the same landscaper that are going to be coming in and putting all those trees in on those projects. So those will be coming here in the next week or so. The Middlebrook reconstruction project, mainline concrete and drive apron pours are just about complete. We have a few exceptions with some catch basin blockouts, some sidewalk ramps, and the intersection down at Wolf in Middlebrook that has yet to be completed. But work will continue over there. We'll be joint sealing, doing some landscaping and some cleanup over there the next week or two. But looks like that project's going to be winding down here real soon. Sylvia reconstruction, Phase 2 mainline pavement removal operations that began yesterday. We got it just about wrapped up today. We started putting some sub-base down this afternoon. Right now we're looking at paving Phase 2, tentatively scheduled for next Tuesday. Keep in mind local traffic in the eastbound direction will be maintained through that project. Snow road resurfacing, concrete repairs are going to be winding down this end of this week, early next week, and asphalt work is tentatively scheduled for completion first week in November. So we'll see that project winding down as well. Lastly, the Ohio Public Works Commission application for the Holland Road reconstruction. That application did go in, was submitted to the Public Works on October 5th. Unfortunately, it went in along with about 60 other applications. So as you can see, that's a really competitive program over there, but I'm hopeful we'll be successful in securing some funding for that project. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Piatek. Council, any questions for the engineer? Mr. Bergio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure, Ed, if this is under your jurisdiction or the safety director's, but was the timing of the light at Sylvia and Smith changed? It appears to be a lot longer on Sylvia and a little shorter on Smith Road.
It's possible that the loops on Sylvia got cut with the project, with the Sylvia project, but I can take a look and see if that in fact was the case, and see if we can get somebody out to make some adjustments.
Okay, yeah, it's, traffic is backing up a little bit on Smith Road, not terribly, but during rush hour it does back up, and it's pretty long light, and we've got a long green on Sylvia, but a short green on Smith Road, so it does tend to back up a little bit, but if you take a look at that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did Sylvia for the Sea of Blue on Sunday, and people are really happy over there. They're going to be more than happy when that's done. But that was one of, I'll go with my colleague, Mr. Bergio, Councilman Bergio, that was brought up to me, I think, about 2-3 times about that light. And then I tried it later on that evening, and coming through Smith, Councilman Bergio is absolutely right. You know, you sit there and you kind of got it timed in your head how it always was, and it's going to change. It's going to change, and there's kind of a delay there. So appreciate you taking a look at it. And it's good to hear first week in November on Snow Road.
That's what I'm being told.
Okay, that's good. And when you do that pour over there on Middlebrook, that'll also seal in the tie-ins on Park, Shaft, and Short Middlebrook also?
Carol as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Council, any other questions for the engineer? Seeing no other questions, we'll move to the Service Director, Mr. Kayette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Saturday last, we had the shredded day at the service garage. It was very busy that day, especially with some of the stuff we got from the tax department here in Brook Park to shred the documents. But the residents took well advantage of bringing their things down and get them done. We have been picking leaves up. I got 3 trucks out daily. There's not a whole lot to pick up. They're averaging about a quarter load per truck, where generally they would get 4 or 5 loads on a heavy time of year. So we'll continue picking leaves up probably till the first snow. So as they come down, folks, put them on your tree lawn. Be patient with us, and we'll be there to get them up off your lawn. It's a little premature right now, but let the folks know Veterans Day. The city's observing it on the Friday, the 10th. If your garbage isn't on that day, we will be picking the garbage up on the 10th. The service department will be closed, but I got a couple of guys coming in to run the automated trucks to pick up the cans on that day. Other than that, the day-to-day workings of the department, I have no other report.
Thank you, Mr. Kayette. Council, any questions to the Service Director? Councilman Troyer?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair to Mr. Kayette, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Through the chair to the Service Director, Mr. Kayette. The bins for yard waste, is that done for the year, or was still a possibility to use that if somebody has some?
Through the chair, no, Councilman, that'll be probably at least another month yet.
Okay, so still bring up the yard waste. And what about the just general waste for the garbage truck? Is that something with a call that we could bring up any time of year?
We're still in summer protocol. We get the winter protocol. We ask people to call, and we don't leave a truck out because of the weather. Usually there's a truck out every day, and when the guys come in their lunch hour, the truck will be available for putting garbage in it.
Okay. But for now, it's just like it has been all summer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions for the Service Director. Safety Director's not here, but if anyone, Mr. Mayor, do you have any report for safety, or?
We were safe as of 4:30, unless something's occurred.
Council, any questions to the Mayor about Safety Director issues? Seeing none, we'll move to the Law Director, Mrs. Horvath.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to ask the clerk's assistance in passing out some handouts. I think you just need to get the upper tier. Mr. Single already has one. I could ask your indulgence for that break there. With regard to pending cases, which we have, we still have the same 3 pending cases that I had previously discussed. There's been no substantive change in their status. I probably, towards the end of the month, will do an update, so everyone will have the update available so that we can go through and briefly discuss each one at the next November meeting. With regard to the subpoenas which were issued concerning the website, I wanted to report what I have received. So far to date, I haven't had a response from Geek Storage, but we were able to get a response from Domain LLC. I have passed out to everyone what they have provided to us, their letter, their copies of our documents, and then there's about 5 pages that they have provided to us concerning the website, the domain name of which is brookparkcitycouncil.com. I am not perhaps as computer savvy as I should be, so I asked the assistance of Mr. Zach Ellis, who is our technical expert over at the city, and he was kind enough to look at these documents and provide me with some insight. So basically what the documents show is that from December 31st of 2015 until September 5th of 2017, the customer, the resident or registrant, or the effective owner of the website was former Councilwoman Julie McCormick. Now, you will see on what has been designated page 4 of the materials that Domain LLC has sent to us that there was some sort of event that occurred on September 5th of 2017. I'm not really sure exactly what that is. I've got an email question into the Domain LLC. It appears that there was some sort of update. It may be that there was a change where the name was taken from the web server or disconnected, but I can't really determine that with any certainty. I still have some questions with regard to the issues that this raises, and I'll probably be following up on that. I'm also going to follow up and see whether or not I can get any information from Geek Storage. But I must say that I'm rather chagrined to see that this is the outcome of the search that we have. It's extremely unfortunate that no one had disclosed this previously. I think it would have been very easy when we were involved in litigation with the former councilwoman to have resolved this issue had the law department known or had the administration known that she was the owner. Probably would have easily been able to be worked out so that the name could have been transferred to the clerk of council. So I want to be brief, but those are my thoughts, and that's the information that I have to provide you tonight. And I will probably do a follow-up either in a memo or directly at a meeting. Thank you.
Council, any questions to the Law Director? Seeing none, we'll move to the Finance Director, Mr. Singles.
I'm sorry. All right, I was still looking at that item. Yes, I did have a question.
Okay, Councilman Troyer. to the
Thank you,
Law
Mr. Council President. To the Chair of the Law Director, Madam Law Director, let me get this together here. I'm looking at approved minutes, and this is concerning some of the special meetings that we had, and I mentioned it at the last one, at the Tuesday, the 26th day of September meeting. I became aware of an issue, and you said it was okay. And I've after these minutes were brought forward, and I had a chance, and after looking at the minutes that were approved, I saw a few things. I just want to bring it to your attention. just in case we need to, if there's an issue we have to fix. Okay, you had stated in the September 12th meeting, hang on, let me make sure I'm right here. I don't want to be wrong. That you stated the legislation passed at the time, no one has challenged the validity of that legislation. And certainly think it's appropriate of council through majority to determine what it wants to do with the legislation on the agenda. And then it goes on to say later on, if legislation gets moved, Mr. Salvatore says, if legislation gets moved to the second agenda is because council took action and moved the legislation through the system. Now, we've ruled on that. We know that, council has the ability to do things. We just need to vote on to do it. But if you look at, I'm missing it. Well, it doesn't matter. The Saturday meeting, the council, at the end of the meeting, council did not, I could actually find it here. Council did not vote to move these ordinances, this legislation, to the third meeting. So council failed to actually vote on a motion to move these 6 items to the third special meeting at the second special meeting. So that's a problem. Council did not put it there. There should be a vote for council to move these items. Calling a meeting does not move the items. Council has to do that. So, and these, again, were special meetings. And then also looking at the minutes of the third meeting, which I was at, that I did mention on the last item, it turns out all those items were not moved at the second meeting to the third meeting. And then there was no vote taken even at the third meeting to add those items to the agenda, which may have saved the day. So did these 6 items pass? The question is, did these 6 items pass officially? And I'm just asking you to look into that and make sure we don't have to do something to fix this issue. So you don't have to reply now, just asking you to take a look at it and make sure that these were properly done and be done with it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Through the chair to Councilman Troyer, it sounds to me like you're asking me for an opinion. And if that is in fact the case, then I would ask you to email me or send me over something very short that details the issues that you're concerned about. Doesn't have to be Shakespeare, just something that plainly states which minutes you're concerned about and what specifically the issues are, and I will respond probably in writing with regard to it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions to the law director? Seeing none, okay. Finance Director, Mr. Single.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report this evening.
Thank you. Is there any questions to the Finance Director from council? Okay, that concludes the items under letter I. We'll move to letter J, which is other communications and petitions and verbal approval and introduction of new legislation. Just have the one, right? Okay, we have one piece of legislation that's being introduced tonight. It's being introduced by Mayor Coyne, and it's providing for a contract between Cuyahoga County General Health District and Brook Park. I'll place this in the Finance Committee. Does the mayor or any other member of council have any legislation to be introduced? Okay, seeing no one has anything else, that concludes items under letter J. We have nothing under letter K, which is miscellaneous business, appointments, and confirmations. So we'll move to letter L, which is remarks from the audience on any subject matter. I will advise the audience that this is the first meeting we're having where it's our new rule change comes in. In the past, this was a time when you would speak on items that were on the agenda only, but we've changed that format so that you can speak on items that are on the agenda. We have 4 pieces of legislation that are on the agenda, one dealing with the sewer repair on Fayette, the other one dealing with a lot split, or a lot consolidation on West 140th, Then we have legislation that's also for the front porches and for the breast cancer awareness. Those are the 4 items on the agenda, so if you want to speak about those, but you can also come up to the podium. I ask that you give your name and address for the record, and that you speak on any other subject matter if you also. We will not have audience participation at the end of the meeting. It's all done at one time now. So if anyone wants to come forward, the time would be to come forward now, give your name and address.
Good evening. Susan Booker, 13855 Franklin Boulevard. I understand the piece of legislation regarding, or the resolution regarding the breast cancer awareness. I understand it, but it has become a political nightmare out there. It has divided groups. What I ask is that this resolution is passed on an emergency basis tonight. The reason being is that this could have been brought by anyone else sitting on that dais back in June, July, August. Excuse me. So with that, considering that, we're halfway through the month. I think the awareness that we have spread with the negativity may have touched some lives, but let's touch them even further and approve this tonight. On another note, I am still confused on why the investigation the findings have not been addressed, except for the watermark stationery, the embossed stamp. There are items in that investigative report that have not been addressed to the constituents, and I feel that I'm owed a response. We're paying you, and out of our taxes, we have paid the investigator. I just want the facts. I don't want assumptions. And that's all we want in our community, are facts, not assumptions. And also, to clear up another matter, I spoke to Dave McCall, who is the district director of one in Ohio, which supports the United Steelworkers. I had a conversation with him on October the 3rd at 3:15 regarding, again, asking for the facts that as of October the 3rd at 3:15, the United Steelworkers are not endorsing any candidate here in the city of Brook Park, Ohio, and do not plan to this election season. On another point, the Neighborhood Watch Group has done tremendous things for the city as far as their existence in the last couple of years. We have supported the safety fair. We have supported the Halloween activities. We have supported the safety town by purchasing a car for the little ones, not for us, for the little ones. That is being worked out as well as using our resources within our community on spreading safety issues. Last evening, Officer Cause spoke to the group about safety issues coming with the holidays and so forth, because those are going to be right around the corner. But we're not a we aren't out there to get anybody. We're out there to spread safety awareness and to keep a watch. And I would expect, again, support from our council and other representatives that work in the city of Brook Park. We had a Sea of Blue campaign on Saturday. I was disappointed with the lack of response from some of my councilmen that represent us in the city of Brook Park on not being out there helping us. But you know what, guys, and excuse me, ladies as well, we have plenty of blue ribbon, and we need to finish this project up in the next week or so, because November 7th is the day of recognition for our safety forces. I thank you for your time this evening, and I do expect to have some communication back out to the community on the findings of that investigator report. Thank you.
Susan Anderson, 5700 Grayland, Brook Park. I stand here tonight as a voice for all the women who no longer have a voice because they lost their lives to the terrible disease known as breast cancer. I stand here tonight to be a voice for the women of Brook Park who are now fighting this disease, who are now battling to save their lives. I also stand here tonight on behalf of the mothers, fathers, husbands, and children, for all the relatives and friends of the women who will never come home again. As many Brook Park residents are aware, on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017, at-large Councilman Rick Salvatore introduced a resolution to City Council in conjunction with Southwest General Hospital, recognizing October as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Begun in October 1985, this is an annual international campaign to promote awareness of breast cancer in order to raise funds for research, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and cures. Councilman Salvatore's resolution was simple and straightforward, and he was not asking for money. He was simply requesting that all council members vote yes to show their support to honor the many families who have been afflicted by the terrible, life-threatening, and life-altering disease known as breast cancer. Additionally, because of many national and international organizations that sponsor National Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October of each year, thousands upon thousands of women and men who have no health coverage are provided with free mammograms, free treatment, and free cures. Thank you, Councilman Salvatore, for bringing forth the October National Breast Cancer Awareness Resolution. Because of you, many lives will be saved. In February 2003, I received the phone call from my physician that every woman dreads. Susan, you have breast cancer. In less than the blink of an eye, my life, my husband's life, and the lives of my son, his wife, and my grandchildren instantly changed. We all, each in our own ways, face the agony and fear of the unknown. Personally, I suffered through not one, but two painful and disfiguring surgeries in the span of less than 3 months. As bad as the surgeries were, the worst was yet to come due to the incredible sickness from chemo to the point where I couldn't leave my home for 3 months. This was followed by 5 years of ongoing treatment and exams every 6 months until that wonderful day in May of 2008 when I heard the news, Susan, there are no signs of cancer, you beat it. Yet to this day, I am required to go for tests on a yearly basis, and from year to year, I have no assurances that there will never be a reoccurrence. This is my life as a 9-year survivor of breast cancer, and this is but a very small picture of what breast cancer does to patients and their loved ones. The no votes by Ward 1 Councilman Troyer and Ward 3 Councilwoman Powers were like spitting in our faces and telling us, your lives don't really matter. What matters is form over function, and we cannot and must not set aside the council rules just to please Councilman Salvatore. The treatment of Councilman Salvatore was insulting and appalling, and the no votes on October 3rd, 2017 by Councilman Troyer and Councilwoman Powers were signs of extremely poor behavior and judgment. Ward 1 resident Greg Wellman posted the following on Facebook, with which I totally agree. Quote, Ward 1 Councilman Troyer and Ward 3 Councilman Powers didn't believe at-large Councilman Salvatore's resolution was important enough to be passed under suspension of the council rules. Troyer loudly complained the resolution was, quote, being fast-tracked for approval, and that Councilman Salvatore's resolution was for, quote, political purposes. Due to the actions of Troyer and Powers, the resolution to recognize October as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month failed, unquote. While Ward 1 Councilman Tom Troyer and Ward 3 Councilwoman Jan Powers shamelessly played politics in a game of one-upmanship with Councilman Salvatore's Breast Cancer Awareness Month resolution, all I can say today is how grateful I am for the Breast Cancer Awareness Month program that provided me with free exams and free treatment. How truly grateful I am that unlike Ward 1 Councilman Tom Troyer and Ward 3 Councilwoman Jan Powers, the physicians, the surgeons, the nurses, the x-ray technicians, and so many others in the medical field didn't play politics and don't play politics with the lives of breast cancer patients. Thank you.
Hello, Joan Markusik, 13911 Bellbrook Drive, Brook Park. Of course. I am a little on the fence with a few people that are running for offices in our city. And I'm going to give my phone number to Michelle. And I would like to ask anybody that is running for an office to call me. I would like to meet with you one-on-one. I don't want like somebody who's representing you, or I don't want to talk to you on a phone. I want to talk to you one-on-one in a neutral place, because I have quite a few issues, as you can tell, because every time I come up here, I just throw things at you left and right. But I have issues that are kind of important to me that I see happening in our city. And I know it's not a me thing, it's a we thing. But I'm having a few issues, and I want to be able to make a confident vote when I go to the polls. So I'm asking anybody that is running for an office to, if you would like to. I've been told that my ward person was told not to come to my house. But I'm really not that intimidating. I'm not like some evil person. I can talk to people logically one-on-one. And I just want my questions answered so that I know what you're standing for, what your vision is, and how it's going to play out. And I know I get a million of those little political flyers and stuff, but I want to hear the questions that I have about those little like bullet points that you put on there and all that other crap that you throw at me. I want answers, basically, for a couple issues. So if you're running for a political office, I would be more than willing to, go on your time whenever you have, wherever you're comfortable or whatever. But I have a couple questions that I want to ask some people. So I'm going to give my phone number to Michelle tonight, and I would really appreciate it if you could give me a couple minutes. I'm not going to take up a ton of your time, but I need to get a couple things kind of in perspective, because everybody just throws so much garbage out there. It's getting a little hard to shuffle through, and I'm not going to put on waiters when I go to the polls. Thank you.
Rob Slattery, 4396 West 62nd Street, Cleveland, Ohio. Reason I'm here, there's been a lot of comments made back and forth by council members, people in the public, and I'd really like to shine some light on this. What I think the council president is doing is something called gaslighting. It's a tactic that you use to gain more power and making people question the reality of the events that are going on. Some of the key indicators of that are denying evidence even though it's directly in front of you, wearing people down over a matter of time, trying to confuse people. They align people to run against you and make comments against you, and they say everyone else is a liar. I believe that is what is happening here. Now, I went through the last 2 meetings ago, I believe it was, when the council president came down off the dais to the podium, and I actually got the verbatim minutes, and I will get through this as fast as possible. These are all directed at you, Mr. Astorino. You mentioned the council website and the accusation of, I accuse you of obstructing an investigation. At one of the meetings, the law director was directed to be the contact to contact Julie McCormick in an attempt to find out the password. Yet you involved yourself in that process by calling her. You stated in the minutes, the amazing thing about this whole, and I'm quoting you off the minutes, so if I'm misquoting you, it's from the verbatim minutes. The amazing thing about this whole thing with the website, the amazing thing, at least to me, is the cost is under $94 for the year. We seem to be spending a whole lot of time and attention on something much to do about nothing. The fact is, questions weren't answered. One was answered tonight. Julie McCormick was the owner of that website up until September 5th, which means she had access to the email systems of all the council members, and God knows how that was set up. She's not on this council. She's an ex-council person, and she's also been convicted of crimes of trust. I think that's a big issue. You then went on to state an issue, and you quote, I quote you, they're hanging their hats on saying the mayor signed the contract didn't sign the contract on July 19th. I signed the contract on April 21st. I was the last one to sign that contract. Now, I believe it's very possible that the mayor, being a busy guy, made a typo. Maybe he was signing something else and he just signed it, but I can tell you, and I will testify to the fact, if it ever comes to it, that I was the last one to sign that contract. It was April 21st. And you bring that up as a glowing error. You mentioned your concerns for the 4 councilmen who expressed their concern about council getting back on track. Have you talked to any of these councilmen and asked them that question if they made those comments? Because I know they made them to me. You expressed your concern about Councilman Powers and Councilman Troyer being compelled to be interviewed. That's per the policies of this city. Any employee can be compelled to testify in an investigation. Are you saying that the council has more powers or more rights than the regular average employee of the city? I think that needs to be answered. You make several comments about the timeline that I described with the resignation of Julie McCormick. I wasn't tasked with investigating that, but I did come across emails from you to her using your private emails, which was against council rule number 28. That's why I involved it in the report. You can't have it both ways and accuse me of not going far enough in an investigation and then telling me I went too far in other ones. You can't have it both ways. You also stated all you were doing is, you said I was overstepping my bounds. Then you went on to say all you were doing is citing the section of the charter, giving her information, thereby covering any liability and trying to exclude her of being railroaded out of town. Do you truly believe that Julie McCormick is railroaded? Next, you state that you don't think the law department has the authority to put a council person's name on legislation without their permission, but you had no problem with Julie McCormick listing the finance committee on that. Do you really believe, do you still feel that way? That a council person or committee can just put anybody on there? I think that's an issue, and I think that's something that should change. Now this is a very good point here. You're referring to the Sheriff's Department investigation. You stated, I asked the county for public records, requested a report, and talked to the detective that was doing it, and that he concluded that there was nothing there and they just decided not to do anything. Now, I have an email from the detective, Jamie Bonnet, from the Sheriff's Department. It's dated October 3rd, and it states the following. I do recall a call from Astorino requesting a copy of my report. I believe we even received a public records request for it. I couldn't tell you if he asked why he wasn't interviewed, but he was surely on the list. I explained to him exactly what my report reflects. We shared our findings on January 5th with the prosecutor's office. At this time, we were advised by the assistant county prosecutor that although crimes may have technically occurred, no charges would be pursued for the following reasons. Criminal intent was not established. At this time, we believe that Michelle Blazek may have changed the documents at the instruction of a council member without intent or knowledge that she was doing wrong. The issue or acts discovered before any loss or harm occurred because the altered document was discovered before it could have been acted upon. Any harm or loss that could have occurred was prevented. Why I did not discuss with Astorino was the fact that when we were presented this to the prosecutor, we were requesting a search warrant for the Brook Park City Council office. Our goal was to search and seize any documents, original or otherwise, pertaining to this case and the typewriter we believe that was used to alter it. The only reason Astorino was not interviewed at this point was because we were not sure who was involved and aware of the documents being altered. The search warrant option was discussed with the law director Horvath, our complainant, prior to us meeting with the prosecutor. This investigation was far from over on January 5th. The only reason we ended it was because the decision was made by the prosecutor's office at the time not to bring forth charges regardless of the findings. Again, the only reason the decision was made was because the loss or harm of any kind was prevented when the altered document was first discovered. To paraphrase what Assistant County Prosecutor was saying, this is a political pissing match between City Hall and City Council. The matter is disturbing, however, it is an internal matter which should be handled swiftly, but internally in the best interest of serving Brook Park and its citizens. I'll provide you a copy of that if you want. So now you go into why I came up and you claimed that it was a surprise presentation. I can tell you why I did that. I had concerns about submitting documents to the office because there's been multiple documents either altered, tampered with, or gone up missing. I was also concerned that you try and shut me down as you've tried through email trying to shut the investigation down as soon as I started demanding questions. You can sit and smile. I don't think it's funny at all. You also stated in my statement to Michelle Blazek that it was a false statement that she wasn't concerned. Have you asked her if she made that comment? She's in a tough position. She's got everybody else hanging over her head. She's got 22 months. I certainly wouldn't want to be in that position. You stated that it's your job to question authority. I looked through council rules and the city charter. I couldn't find that. If you could point that out, that that's your job to question authority, I'd really appreciate that. You then stated on page 6 of the report about the closing of the fire station is clearly outside the scope of his authority because it was nothing to do with council actions. It had nothing about council, and if you look at his report, and this is important because the report of one of the questions that always come to my mind when I see a report is it credible? Is it factual? You also claim that a mistake was made regarding the PAC being sued. In regard to that, both the Initiation Petition Committee and the PAC were sued. Here's 2 different powers of attorney that you as Susan Anderson signed for Deemert and Associates to take over as the defense of the lawsuit. So going on with the power of attorney, you had both Greg Wellman and Susan Anderson, and I believe Rachel Ott signed them. I have not seen anything from Rachel. You had NOF, as you were president of NOF, you promised to pay the legal fees and costs for the lawsuit. Then you claimed that you had nothing to do with the numerous attempts made to the city to gain these fees back. You were copied on emails with Julie McCormick. Your wife and Bess Vetros attempted to contact different attorneys to sue the city for that. How is it that possible that they knew the amounts to go after as you were the only one that was getting the invoices? That's another great question. Now, you did make a mention that I made a mistake. You mentioned I made many mistakes, but I would argue that I listed Northeastern Ohio firefighters, and it's actually Northern Ohio firefighters. I did make that mistake. I'll own that. I'll stand corrected on that. You made a statement about the law director does not have to agree with legislation that's requested. You stated draft it up and make sure it's approved by legal form of correctness. You don't sit there and say you should not do that. That is not the law director's job. Do you actually believe the law director shouldn't review every business action and dealings for the city? Isn't that her elected position to do that? She's the only attorney that's been elected by the people to represent the people legally. And I think you kind of minimize that. You refer to the comment of having a conflict of interest regarding this SOS in the city lawsuit. And I'm quoting this from the minutes. You stated that most of the lawsuit was going on prior to you taking the seat as council president. Did you tell any of the council members or administration you were involved in the defense of the lawsuit? I asked council members and they stated they had no knowledge of your involvement. You asked for dates of meetings that you were involved regarding the lawsuit. I will refer to the council meeting on February 16th, 2016, and I have them here. On page 1, it shows that you were the one that called the meeting to order. Then on page 7, it reflects that you were seated and conducting meeting when the discussion of the SOS appeal came up. Page 16 reflects several comments from the public that were made regarding the SOS lawsuit. A question was asked about the cost of the lawsuit, and you made the following comment. Mr. Single does not add that information, and rather than guess, he will research and get you the information. On page 1 of the council minutes from April 5th, 2016, reflects that you were in attendance for the meeting. You recused yourself to the public area while the discussion of the lawsuit went on. You then took control of the meeting and made the following statements, and I'll read them here. It says, Mr. Astorino thanked Councilman Mancini for handling the part of the meeting and stated, I am glad to hear that this seems to be wrapping up and coming to an end. The potential conflict does give me a chance to stretch my legs, but I'd rather sit up here and chair the meeting and would like to personally express congratulations to Susan Anderson, Greg Wellman, Johnny DeMassa, Russ and Virginia Fadenholtz, Ron and Kathy McCutcheon, and many others, along with Councilwoman Powers and Troyers for this great victory in getting that station. They got involved in a civic action. It's great to see any citizen get involved in anything that like that and make a difference in the community. It's good to see community involvement and success, and it's good to see things come out where the neighborhood is provided proper protection. Okay, so you did sit and you were involved, whether you were in the public session, you were privy to information and you were helping on the defense of the lawsuit against the city that you sat to direct the city council. That is a conflict of interest. Now you go on to say, you refer to the section of the report where I referred to Phase Star and listed Bess Vetros as being listed as a director as a glowing mistake, and I stand corrected there as well. She's actually not listed as a director. She's listed under the leadership team. And if anybody wants to, you can Google it. Here's her bio under the front page of the site that says leadership. So leadership, director, I think that's a far stretch to say that that is a glowing error. You refer to the public records request from the private citizens. You state that it was for an anonymous person for those records, but it was actually submitted twice. On June 21st, 2017, you submitted a request, and I have it here, and it went to the mayor, the law director, and myself. And it says, under the Ohio Public Records Act, I am making this request for any and all notes, and then I am also requesting any and all tape recordings that any of the three of you have compiled during the investigation. I'm also requesting any and all names of individuals, Mayor Coyne, Law Director Horvath, or Rob W. Slattery, have been in contact pertaining to this investigation. This list of names would also include any private citizens that have been in contact with Mayor Coyne, Law Director Horvath, or Rob Slattery. In addition to the list of names, I am also requesting any identification of what the involvement of the private citizen, what they did specifically contact you about. And then, again, it was submitted on August 23rd as being for someone that's anonymous. So now we go down to my comment that I made about the Hometown News and referring that it was owned by ex-councilwoman, and I believe I said convicted ex-councilwoman. I want to make sure I quote myself correctly. And you stated that that was wrong, that she did not own that. She owned it till September 5th of 2017. That say the report was already, that section of the report was already written. So, getting toward the end of this, I know people are getting tired of hearing me speak, but you referred to a section or a page in my personnel file that it listed I should not take debts that I can't pay. In fact, that was $148, I believe, was the total of a police equipment that I ordered from a store and forgot I had ordered it. I paid that. Now, it's amazing to me that I came across that from 2014 to 15, on the county fiscal officer's page, that you were delinquent in your property taxes for well over $1,000, and you were fined for that. So, how does that play out? You're going to call me out and say that I'm unethical. My report was glowing in errors. You should reject it. You're not going to pay me. That I didn't deserve. Excuse me. I didn't deserve my pay. When all this is out there, that's unbelievably hypocritical. Now, lastly, you stated that I was slow and I was negligent in responding to you and telling you that we discovered who tampered with and altered the original documents. The Sheriff's Department sent back the investigation. The email, I believe, was January 5th of 17, and advised the city that they should act swiftly in dealing with this internal issue. That was the statement from the detective. City Council didn't hire me till April 12th. It was 96 days. There were 17 meetings in that time frame. I went back to the city website and counted all the meetings. And you sit here and accuse me of dragging my feet and not doing my job. Well, you know what? I point the finger right back at you. All of you. City Council, and you're the leader. You've told us painlessly over and over that you direct this council. You're supposed to direct these meetings. And there was 17 meetings, and nothing was done. Now, lastly, Mr. Troyer made some comments about I shouldn't be paid, or he had concerns about the timing and my response and everything like that. Since you've been seated on council twice, you've been charged criminally, convicted, second one today. They've had to hire special prosecutors. They've had to bring in visiting judges. Officers, there was a hallway full of officers that, from my understanding, most of them, if not all, were on overtime today. You have any intention of repaying the city for those costs? It was your responsibility. It was your actions that caused that. I appreciate your time.
My name is Roseanne Newman, 6289 Shaft Drive. Wow, these meetings just get more unbelievable every day. I'm going to address the elephant that's in the room. Mr. Troyer, today you were convicted, you were found guilty of disorderly conduct, misdemeanor 4 in Berea Municipal Court. This is your second conviction, the first one being in 2014. The residents of Brook Park deserve better from their elected officials. I'm going to ask you to resign your seat. And I'm going to use a quote that I used with convicted former council person McCormick. Ask not what you can do for ask not what your city can do for you, but ask what you can do for your city. These charges are not your misfortune. These are the consequences to your actions, and it's ultimately disgusting, and I've had it. And then I'd also like to address the, lo and behold, the discovery of former convicted councilperson McCormick. Isn't that interesting that on September 5th, 2017, she transferred the ownership, is that correct? Transferred the ownership of the Brook Park? No, that's, well, she transferred the trade name Hometown News on that date. But also, I believe, Law Director Horvath, you mentioned something that there was some type of activity on September 5th with the domain by proxy website, is that correct? Okay. And I really am finding it hard to believe that you, Mr. Astorino, had no prior knowledge of this. I am just floored and completely disgusted because the Hometown News, Julie McCormick, yourself, you're all in it together. That's all there is. And then lastly, as far as the breast cancer awareness, not passing that resolution, that needs to be passed tonight, regardless of anybody's feelings. If you want to make it for next year, you want to introduce it in November to make next year, October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, fine. But do it for all those people and do it for all of us and the people that we have buried that have lost their battle to breast cancer. And seriously, Mr. Troyer, consider resigning. And if you don't resign, I hope other members of council will take action and not just sit there. And if they don't, I pray to God that the residents of Ward 1 educate themselves and don't blindly vote on what is being said and being put in their heads. Thank you.
Patty Astorino, 6258 Engle Road. I come here tonight because I've been involved with Brook Park politics a long time. I served on Rick Salvatore's committee when he ran for mayor. Rick, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but you know the allegations and the things that you were charged with that lost your mayor race. But these same people weren't up here asking you to resign. Carol Horvath, those people that you're talking about today, Julie McCormick and Bessie Vetros, wrote your political literature. And here you sit and you act like humble pie. Tom Coyne, Julie McCormick, and Bessie Vetros ran your campaign. She was pregnant, she was high risk, she ran your campaign. It's just very sad you want to make this all about politics. Mr. Slattery, I was told by a friend who lives in Brooklyn Acres that Mr. Slattery was a good friend and on a board with a director's mother. That he should not even have been hired, that his is so partial. So I brought this up to him, and he said to me, maybe you should be investigated. He can say, oh, yes, I did donate to the fire station campaign. Oh, yes, my dear old friend, Susan Anderson, was coached by Tom Troyer to participate in it. Oh, yes, Greg Wellman wrote some nasty letters at that time against Tom Coyne. It's just all politics. It needs to stop. There ain't a person up there who doesn't have their best interests in heart for Brook Park. Them asking for Tom Troyer to resign is all politics. Mr. Stem could be a very nice man, but so is Troyer. So is everybody up there. You need to put this aside. It has to stop. And it stops right there with Tom Coyne as he fired Bessie Vetros, as he fired Julie McCormick. It needs to stop. Thank you.
Roseanne Newman,
I'm sorry, please. You've already-
Roseanne Newman, 6289 Shaft Drive. I just want to say one
Ma'am,
more thing.
please stop. Point of order.
This,
Please, Roseanne, please stop.
right, fine.
You need to sit down.
But you know what?
You need to sit down. You don't get to go a second time until
Fine.
everybody's got their first time. This isn't your show, it's everybody's show. You can go get coached by somebody else on what to say now, so, but does anyone else want to come to the podium to speak?
Yeah. Steve Thomas at 13517 Middlebrook Boulevard. Couple things. First thing, I'd be proud if Tom Troyer was my councilman because my councilman in Ward 4 is Richard Scott. Now, Scott, you voted on this thing, it was Millbrook just building this thing, you own the zoning board, you voted for it. And you know our residents on Millbrook Boulevard and Crestway do not want no part of that one way or at all. But all we keep hearing is, I talked to the mayor outside earlier, and he tells me, well, no, we got a provisional thing for this. That still doesn't help me and my residents there. When we try to go left out on West 130th, it's hard enough to get out of there now. Now we will never get out of there. And I'm disgusted with the whole thing. And all you people keep coming up here talking about these council people, this, it's all political. That's garbage. We're up here to try to get something done. And you tell people to get up here and work together. That's the only way you're going to accomplish anything. And not without coming up here talking about everyone up on that council like a dog. Because no matter how we feel personally about any one of them people up there, we have to live with them people. Those are the people that was elected, and that's the way it's got to be.
Levine Cates, 15499 Remora. Can you please tell me what rule there is that states you cannot come to the podium again for a second time?
It's Robert's Rules of Orders talks about the people speaking, and you don't get to speak a second time until everyone has had a chance to speak the first time.
Okay. Is everyone done? Yeah. No. Nope. Okay, there you go. Roseanne will be up when
Okay, thanks for being the assistant president of council and helping out.
Susan Lemo, 13475 Crestway. I'm here to talk about the proposal for the lot at West 130th and Middlebrook. I came to last week's council meeting and I was mad. I mean, I was mad before I even walked through the door because I'm so surprised that this has gotten so far. I just didn't expect that, or I would have gotten involved earlier. I didn't feel like I should have to come down here and babysit the mayor and the city council, and that I should be able to trust them to do what is right for the constituents. I understand the benefit and the need for new business, but it can't always be what's good for the city. It has to be what's good for the residents as well. It is not true that we residents won't be happy with any development of the lot. I've lived on Crestway for 14 years, and I've often wondered, when is somebody going to do something with that lot? And I wondered what it was going to be. I just never dreamed that it was going to be a high-traffic retail establishment. It is already a high-traffic major intersection. For this reason, it cannot be compared with Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts is on a major road, not a major intersection. There is a traffic light in place for those residents who wish to exit alongside of it. It is a ridiculous comparison, and I really shouldn't need to explain that. The statement was also made that the owner has a right to develop his property, but the owner was aware of how it was zoned when he purchased it, I'm sure. And I don't think his rights to develop his property are more important than my rights as a resident. And I mean, why all the allowances, number one? The changing of the zoning, the right turn only, the overflow parking, that should be enough to tell you that this is not the right lot size and it's not the right location for such type of a business. I will never agree with the property owner's right to make money over my right to be inconvenienced at the new level of traffic every single day for forever. It's going to be dangerous, if not practically impossible, to make a left-hand turn out of Middlebrook, certainly during breakfast, lunch, and dinner hours. And I don't feel like it's the need that you have to be convinced of this or that you can't understand. You're all smart people. I think it's just because you don't care. I'm not going to come back here and babysit. You guys can put off the vote and put off the vote and put off the vote. I'm hoping that you'll do what is right, and think about the people that live there and spend 5 minutes watching the traffic there one day. Simply moving the egress to the center of the lot, then you're just going to have people competing for the turning lane. And are you going to put a sign there that says, "Don't block Middlebrook Road so we can come out"? Just some of the things I'm thinking of. And I'm hoping you're not considering in the future, when you realize that it's now a very dangerous intersection, to make the people coming off of Middlebrook, make them turn right only. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to come to the podium for audience participation?
Yeah, my name's George Biltz. I've lived on Middlebrook for 29 years.
I need your address too, sir.
13538 Middlebrook.
Thank
I
you.
want to challenge any one of yous to have that on your street where you live. You live in a residential. You wouldn't want that on your street.
Does anyone else from the audience want to come to speak during audience participation?
Susan Booker, 13855 Franklin Boulevard. Out in the world, we all have our differences. We all have our political opinions. But as a team, you need to put yourselves together. Leave those at the door of the council chambers. I know it's difficult to face criticism from us in the community, or kudos, but we need to see you all working as a team between now and January 1st. And then come January 1st, we continue with that motto, working as a team. It shows true leadership. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vaughn Foltz. I live at 21890 Crestridge Drive, Brook Park. I'm sure everyone knows why I'm here, but I just want to apologize to everyone in City Council. I want to apologize to the residents, our neighbors where I live at. I want to apologize to Brook Park Police, the mayor, City Council, any and everyone here who may not know the story, but something happened last year in which I regret. I apologize. I need to do it. It's not about what I was told to do by the attorney / judge. This is what I wanted to do. So I want to say I'm sorry. I truly feel, no offense to you, Mr. Troyer, I did tell my attorney as well as the prosecutor that I don't know where they got that you called me the N-word, and I said that you never said that. So I want to get that out in the air. If that's what someone said, regardless, whoever it was, I never said that. I only talked to you one time, but I still say that how I feel about you is nothing bad. I can't say anything bad because I only talked with you one time. We didn't see eye to eye on some things. I still feel that you're a good man. Mr. Astorini, I only talk, did I say his name right? I hear some.
You're closer than most, Mr. Foltz.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm very sorry about that, but I want to apologize to you. I only talked with you one time also. I still feel that you're a good man, regardless of what, and I'm hearing negative things about YouTube, but I'm hearing good things, but I don't fall into that little clique stuff. If I think you're a good man, you're a good man. And that's just how I feel. I feel that you're both good men. Miss Virginia, I don't want to say her last name, but she said shame on me today. In all honesty, I think it was shame on both of us because we both made a mistake. I think I made a big mistake into allowing my sons, well, my youngest son, to have parties with the magnitude that it was. It wasn't good, but it won't happen anymore. Mayor Coyne, I want to say I apologize to you too. You said something that stuck with me last year about being deep into the pockets. Like I told my sons, there are ramifications on some things it's not going to happen. We are going to have parties, but it's going to be maybe 20 at the most. So.
It's the limit of the ordinance.
So some of you are invited to the party. Mr. Salvatore, I want to tell you, I never got a chance to tell you this, but I want to tell you thank you years ago for allowing me to help coach with Coach Tony. Never got a chance to tell you that, but I want to say thank you. It was years ago, probably about 10 years ago. Coach Rich, still think you're an awesome coach. I remember you. Okay. With that, God bless everybody. I apologize again. So.
Does anyone else want to participate in audience participation? Seeing no one else coming forward to the podium?
Can I speak from here as a private citizen, or would you prefer that I go down there?
You can speak from there if that's what you want to do.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record.
For
if
the
you're speaking as a
record,
private
Jan
citizen.
Powers, 16110 Harrison Drive. I had some things that I wanted to bring up tonight. Some of them have to do with council, some of them have to do with what happens in here that shouldn't happen in here. And I want to start with things that are already happened and already done. The house on Smith that you guys okayed to be built, there were no energy efficiency measures with that house. And in today's age, when we know about the pollution that's caused with life, we need to have some kind of regulations about energy efficiency. Most windows should face south. That's the part of your house that should have the most windows on it. Windows that are north should be high where they don't get a lot of the wind. West facing, which is, this house has most of its windows west facing, they should be shaded somewhat. So Frank Lloyd Wright had it, he knew about these measures 100 years ago, and that's when he built his houses with energy efficiency. We should take a lesson from him. West 130th Street. There's no access off of West 130th. There's too much congestion. It's too inconvenient for Crestway and Middlebrook. If you go over there and you look at those streets, you know that they're both, Middlebrook is probably the longest street in the city. And when it comes down to curve, from the curve to West 130th, that's a lot of houses. And Crestway runs off of Middlebrook and curves around and comes into Middlebrook again right at 130th. So you have a lot of traffic already over there. You have flooding issues over there.
And as they told you before, you have the school buses, the kids. There's just too much traffic in that area. And to put these buildings there, if he wants to put the builder, wants to put these buildings in, and the blueprint I have only shows 3 buildings, and not 4 that we talk about. But if he wants to put them in, then we should have him look at office space only, like law offices, doctor's offices, dental offices, insurance offices, any kind of an office that is going to have a few people working and a stream of people coming all day long, but only 1 or 2 at a time. You put an eatery in there, and you're going to have, especially a drive-through, and as the lady said, you're going to have people there as long as the thing is open. You're going to have a traffic problem. So we need to look at what we're doing to help the neighborhood. Yes, I as she, I'd like to see all businesses come in here that we can handle. But it has to be the right business for the right location. And this business is not the right location. So that's, and the other thing I want to talk about is that we have money for everything under the sun, money to put, what did we just do, $157,000 worth of lights on Kennedy Field? We have money for that, but we have no money to address the flooding issues in our city, and especially back there on Wengler, Shelby, the other one, Doris, where you get a lot of flooding, as well as other areas in this city that have flooding issues. I don't want to leave out Pemberton, those streets between Hummel and Snow, some of those residential streets in there, they get flooding. Where this house is being built on Smith, they get flooding behind there. And so we need to put some money into alleviating the flooding problem. And one way to alleviate some of the flooding problem back there by the railroad track by Wengler and Shelby would be just to dredge that. There's a creek back there, and it is so overgrown that if you stood by the railroad track and looked either way, you would not realize that there is a creek down there because it is so overgrown. They used to dredge that creek, and it helped with the flooding. And we could put a holding tank in, and that would help with the flooding. And the last thing I want to talk about is the Howard Johnson's hotel. You say you're for economic development. Your last piece of literature, you, Mayor Coyne, your last piece of literature came out with you and Mike Dolan, the economic developer. You were praising Harley Davidson, which the deal was made under Elliott, and the building was built your first year. But the only thing that we did with them after the deal was made is our economic developer gave them $150,000 grant. 2 of the other people that were on your literature, we gave 3 grants. 2 or 3 was on your agenda. The 3, I think it was 3. All 3 of them you gave $50,000 grants after they'd already were here. The 4th person that's on Commerce Park that took your $50,000, my tax dollar, your tax dollar, took our tax dollars happily, and he'd been here for 20 years, I think. And so we're giving money away, and I said then, where is it going to end? If you give those people grants, how can you say no to anybody else that comes asking for a grant? But I am suggesting tonight that you give Howard Johnson's a $250,000 grant. I am asking for a $250,000 grant for Howard Johnson's because you have fined him more than $100,000. You have cost him numerous untold amounts of money by closing him down, totally, absolutely closing him down. because he had 24 people working here. You think it's great that Harley-Davidson has 40 people working here. Well, he had 24 people, and some of those people, not only did the 24 people lose their jobs, but some of them are on welfare now because they were young mothers trying to support their families. And you closed him down, who knows why? Because every time you said something was wrong with that building, they fixed it. Every time. Every time the building engineer found a problem that you probably helped him find or asked him to find, he has fixed up part of it. He has rooms to rent that are already good condition. He's put in new paint, new furniture, new everything. Everything is good to go. And if he could open those rooms, then he could have money to finish repairing the other part of and putting in new paint and new furniture. He has, and now, after all of this, just this week, he got a notice that the stucco is wrong on his building. The stucco was put on there over a year ago. And that stucco was done by a legitimate company. It was not, as you do our jobs here in Brook Park, it was not done by the Friends and Family Stucco Company. So now you want him to scrape off all the stucco and put it on you again. And he can't open because of that. Stucco is not life-threatening. It is not, has nothing to do with the integrity of the building. It's just you wanting to shut him down because you have sat here on council and said you have plans for that property, you want to shut him down. The fire marshal says that it's okay to rent. He could rent, if he could rent out some of his rooms, he could bring back some of his staff, create some more jobs. As I said, his 24 employees are out of work. He has to keep the place open because he says it's an attempt to keep down vandalism, so he is paying people to be there 24/7 just to keep the vandals away. So why can't we let him use the part of his building that he has totally complied with? But now you say that because the stucco isn't here, that he still can't do anything. And when he was running, you had him raise his rates because he was the least expensive of the 3 hotels there. And you said, no, he couldn't be the lowest rate. You wanted him to raise his rates. And the reason he wasn't raising his rates is because he said most of his clientele comes from the airport, or they come in, they don't want to rent a room downtown because of the expense. So they rent here, they go downtown, they do whatever they do, they have a little vacation, whatever, their business, and then they come back out and go back to their homes. So he only rents for 1 or 2 nights at a time. And you have said that he has squatters in there, dope handlers, whatever, that live there permanently or on a month-to-month lease, and he says that has never happened. So that's just some of the things that I want brought to your attention. Oh yeah, Boss Pro Cart's got $50,000 grant. Harley-Davidson got a $150,000 grant. Cuyahoga Machine got a $50,000 grant. And Drabick on Commerce Park got a $50,000 grant. But he didn't endorse you on your last flyer. So that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to come to the podium to address council under audience participation? Okay, seeing no one else coming forward to the podium, that concludes the items under letter L. We'll go to letter M, which is introduction of
Mr. Council
ordinance.
President, I'd I'd like to make a
Councilman Troyer?
motion to reply to the questions or comments of the audience.
I'll support.
There's a motion by council to respond to the audience participation. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Troyer.
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
McDonald.
No.
Powers.
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
Bergio.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-1, so audience, or council, you can address the comments that were under audience participation. Councilman Salvatore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first one is a comment I would like to make that, I guess the question is Councilwoman Powers addressing council as a resident, even though she wasn't at the podium? She was seated at the where she's been elected a seat. I would just like to make sure that it's noted that the comments and the statements were made as a resident and not as an elected official. The capacity of the statements should reflect that there were her personal comments as a resident. In no way, shape, or form should it be misconstrued that the comments were made as an elected official. I think some of the comments that were made could be very damaging in the future, and I don't want the city to be at risk because of something that was said. And secondly, I would like to address Patty Estorino. I appreciate your comments, and you're absolutely right. You did help me 16 years ago when I ran for mayor, and you did a heck of a job. You were one of the hardest workers on the campaign. Unfortunately, we didn't win. But and I don't think you threw me under the bus. I don't think the bus is big enough. They got to get a bigger bus to throw me under there. I wasn't charged with anything, and you know that. Even though the plane did a print, and Council President Salvatore was cleared of all charges. I wasn't charged with anything. I know they said there was comments that were made that they said that my daughter was involved in the accident, and I went to her rescue. She was 17, and she hit a car, and I was going to take the blame for it, because I didn't want my daughter to get in trouble. That wasn't true either. And everybody knows that was there at the time, around the 16 years ago, that it was a construction company doing work in the city of Brook Park, had an illegally parked vehicle on the wrong side of the road, left it there because it wouldn't start. It was a dump truck, and they had a big mound of gravel because they were doing work on the street. And as I went around the gravel, I hit the illegally parked vehicle. My daughter wasn't driving it, I was driving it. And I wasn't charged with anything. So you didn't throw me under the bus. I appreciate the comments, and again, thank you for all your help 16 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Bergio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Concerning the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I think Mrs. Anderson may have left already, but I'm very thankful. Thankful to God that she is a breast cancer survivor of 9 years. I really truly mean that. As everyone on council knows, I personally, it's a personal issue with me since my wife is also a breast cancer survivor for 11 years. And October is a very, very important month for breast cancer survivors and those who are dealing with the illness. It's a very important month. It's a reminder to get your mammograms. This morning, my wife and I went to Southwest and she got her mammogram. It's a constant reminder to get one. It's important. It's not to be politicized at all. And it's not a hard thing to pass. We should pass this tonight. We really should. So now we wait and see what the results are going to be. Hold our breath and pray. October is a very special month for people who are dealing with this illness. And I just wish that we can all come together and pass it tonight. It's not that difficult. Let's agree on one thing as council and do that. I'm asking council as a personal favor. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Scott, do you want to participate in the? No. Councilman Mancini, do you want to participate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we had, and I'll finish on the cancer last. One of the reasons why I would like to always had audience participation at the end, and I always admit that was my idea back when we had our orientation back before 2016. because now I look and half the people were here originally. I had to count. I think we were at 1.58 out there. I know it's a lot. Look around, it's a lot more lower than that, but that's fine. It's what it is. We're fine. We move on. We made the changes. The majority of council wanted that. I'm fine with that. And to me, that's how that progress should work. But I want to see at these council meetings progression, and I don't want to see people coming up to the mic and just some of the things I always see a lot of good things, but sometimes the way they're addressing council, and it's not the way it should be. Okay, when you come to that mic, it should be a problem that you have or something that maybe you want us to address. But a lot of it, let's be honest with ourselves. A lot of it was political. Okay, not in a really always the bad way. But we don't. Let's move ahead. I say that all the time. When I walked, I just finished my last street yesterday, Susan. And I want to say like about 400 people. Obviously, I had the surgeries, and I'm going to be here all day, but I had the surgeries, so I had to spread it out a little bit. A lot in the spring, early summer, and a lot end of summer, early fall here. So I finished yesterday, and I think I'm at 400-something odd people that I caught at the door. And a lot of the things I heard tonight, I don't hear at the door, to be more than honest. I hear about the speeding. I hear about my neighbor, Jim, if you could get him to fix this, or just things of that sort. Or so down the streets doing this, get my street looking like Fry Road, things of that sort. We're working on a lot of them things. The flooding, I have that in my ward too. It's in my ward too. Okay, and a number of the things that I hopefully as we go on here, we'll know in 3 weeks that we'll start working on. But, I like to think that, I try to work with everybody and like I tell a lot of good friends, and I said it at the door a lot, one-on-one, everybody's great. But sometimes when we get in here, we get in that gym, we get whatever, everybody, and that's not what I want to see here in Brook Park. I want to see a Brook Park that's viable, like we're putting the Black Watch, the blue, we put the blue things, Seal Blue out there, as there Saturday. That's what we want to see, things like that. And I just don't, and I want to touch on that, I just don't want to see just politicians. I believe somebody came up there, I think it was Sue, and I love Sue to death, but she said, well, I want to see more. It should be the whole community. They had a beautiful setup. They had coffee, pop, everything up there for everybody to come, but there was a share of politics. It should be a sea of the community, too, should be working on it. So not just the politicians. That's big. A lot of communities are known for that. And on the cancer, okay, I counted out there, I think I might be off one, or I hope not. I wish it was none. I think 6 people that were in this room tonight that it's been affected by. And a good friend of mine is, just found out not too long ago. And one of the things when I first found out on a Saturday night, I said that it should have been me. I'm older, he's got family, he's got kids, he's got everything, and he's gonna work hard, and I will be there for that person. But my point is that this is so important. This is one thing where it shouldn't be where it's been talked about at that microphone. This should be something, it was a great piece that Mr. Councilman Salvatore brought. It should be a no-brainer. That's my take on it. And we've all been affected by it. It's a terrible disease, and I wish nobody was ever affected by it. So, you asked me to speak, Mr. Chairman, so I did. So, okay, thank you.
I didn't, you could have said no, Mr. Mancini. I wouldn't have objected. Are you done then, Mr. Mancini?
Thank you, yes.
Okay. Councilwoman McDonald, did you want to participate?
Not tonight, thanks.
Okay. Councilwoman Powers?
Last week, when we talked about Breast Cancer Awareness Month, my comments were misconstrued. I said that I would like to see it all cancer, not just breast cancer. And I had some very personal reasons for that, aside from the fact that nationally this is Breast Cancer Month, so it's kind of redundant that we are going to say we're doing it as Breast Cancer Month because we're part of the United States, so we are already included in it being Breast Cancer Month. Now, the reasons that I said that I would like to see it all cancer is because in my family, you either die of heart problems or you die of cancer. Mr. Troyer told you that he didn't get to meet his grandmother because of breast cancer. My grandmother had breast cancer, and the worst thing about breast cancer is that it is not predictable. Every person that has breast cancer has a lot of cancers. When you have that cancer, the doctors can pretty well predict where it will hit you again if it comes back. Breast cancer, there's no telling. It'll come back to your brain, to your lungs, any of your organs. And by the time my grandmother died, yes, she had cancer throughout her entire body. Most of my family has died with cancer. Right now, this month of October, my brother is battling prostate cancer and leukemia both. So say a prayer for him and know that I don't think that we should not honor any cancer. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Troyer, did you want to speak?
Yes, I must, Mr. Council President. I will start off by, I'll try to do this in order. I'd rather get to passing our legislation, but I was politically attacked tonight, so I have to answer some of the issues. First of all, it was mentioned about passing stuff on an emergency basis. This is something that even I had a problem with 3.5 years ago when I started, because emergency, you could be doing it as an emergency, or you can have the emergency clause. The emergency clause is at the end of most of our legislation. And what that emergency clause does, if it's there, is instead of originally legislation was supposed to take effect 30 days. There are some instances where it's different. But the emergency clause, what that does is it makes it take effect immediately. It's after it's signed instead of the 30-day waiting period. There are some pieces of legislation that can't be passed that way. And then you have suspension of the rules, or move to suspend when you hear it, as far as when we're going through on readings. So what we're doing there is suspending readings. This is one of the things that I always had, and Councilwoman Powers always had, when we used to, for years, we sat out in the audience there, spoke once in a while on the issues, and we'd watch stuff be fast-tracked. It would come up at a pre-council caucus, and then it would be passed at that council. And we are always against that. And I'm still against that. I don't like that method of doing things. We should have at least time between caucus and a reading, or between readings, so if there's any issues, people can speak and whatnot. And it doesn't matter what piece of legislation it is, unless it is a true emergency. So on this breast cancer awareness, the reason number one, let me state, I did not block it. I did not vote against it. In fact, I'm a co-sponsor on the legislation. So in sticking to my principles of not liking to suspend things, especially in that type of situation, I stuck to my principles and did not vote to suspend. That's it. I also stated at the time that I would vote to suspend on today's meeting. So it's kind of disingenuous for a councilman to say, please vote to suspend, please pass this tonight, because I said 2 weeks ago that I expect I will be voting to suspend on this night when it comes back up in a proper manner, and it's only going to take 2 weeks to pass this. And I'd like to just stay because it was made political, and I didn't want that, and I don't want it to be there. But, the fact of the matter is that Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, I think it's 38 years or something like that. October has been Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Most people would know that. And yeah, maybe some people forget it at the moment, but if somebody asks you, wait, what month was Breast Cancer Awareness, you'd probably remember that it was October. So again, co-sponsored it, not against it, going to vote to suspend the night. It was against my principles the vote to suspend 2 weeks ago. So here we are. And so I'm gonna move away from that, but just mention politics again. The woman who came up, and the person that she mentioned, I mean, they actually have, and the people out there should know this, they actually have a Facebook page which is dedicated to attack myself and some others on this council. That's what the Facebook page is for. I mean, so take it for what it is. Moving on. Mr. Slattery, we are not employees. See, that wouldn't work if we were employees. If we were employees, we have to abide by the employee conduct, and then the mayor would be able to control us. We should not be controlled by the executive staff and the administrator. Then we're not doing our job. We are not employees. Okay, let me get to the other. I have two elephants in the room tonight. And I'm trying to be straight on this. Let me just talk about a person to talk, because I don't like using names. Everybody knows about the incident with the party, the big party. I'm trying to dance around this a little bit because it's not over yet, and I want to acknowledge that I appreciate you coming up here. But I can't accept your apology yet, because this has cost me a lot of money, and it cost me a lot. But I do want to explain that I went out there to support the people. I was standing there doing nothing when this gentleman had decided to have a problem with me. I was asked to leave. I went to leave. The gentleman proceeded to follow me and verbally threatened me. I turned around to face him because I didn't want to get jumped, and I did yell. Now, I want everybody to understand something. This is disorderly conduct can be as simple as yelling in a crowd. It could be as simple as standing in a line and standing backwards. If the police officer decides that's his disorderly conduct, it is. That's how vague it is. It could be to extreme too. So on the advice of my attorney today, and not wanting to drag this out any longer, which I never wanted to do in the first place, but that's a whole other thing. On the advice of my attorney, I pled no contest to the charge to get it done with. But they also dropped the other charge. That's very important. Because if they thought that was a real charge, it wouldn't have been dropped. Trust me. So in the end, this is probably going to be the right thing to do. I'm still thinking about it, but it's done now. I have yet to be had the final conclusion done, but there'll be something forthcoming. But again, if my residents call me, I will respond. This won't stop that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish that Councilwoman Powers would have came to the mayor's forum, and maybe we could have had some of these issues here. This is very unusual tonight to discuss politics at the council meeting so openly. So I want to address a couple of the residents that were here this evening that were talking about breast cancer awareness in the city, and you should be commended for come up and telling you stories. It's a difficult story for every family in the country, and quite frankly, there is no excuse for moving this forward. It's routine things, and this has been going on in this council for a long time. Mrs. Lemo and the residents of Middlebrook Boulevard clearly have the right to have their concerns heard, and they will be through the process that I tried to explain to is it Mr. Blitz that's out there this evening? Okay, the other gentleman that came up there, that again, the conditional use permit gives the city a lot more authority than if it was just done a regular development thing. And as the process, you get to voice your concerns. The private property person has a right to their property development, as long as it doesn't unfairly not inconvenience, but cause damage to your property, not an inconvenience. So again, it's the city's job to try to deal with the issues. And I think for the most part, until the final plat is developed, most of those things that were talked about were addressed. So let's get into the politics here. I'm an amazing person, and I'm not a perfect person, as everyone knows, but I'm amazing. I am responsible for everything. And when someone gets up to this microphone, Mrs. Astorino, with all due respect, and this is Tom Coyne's fault. It interests me that you raise the issues of politics. Let's get to my lifelong friend, Bess Veredis. You don't even know about our relationship for a long, long time. And she's one of the most talented women I've ever known in voter ID and campaigns. And yes, Bess ran my campaigns. Julie McCormick, you've only heard me bring Julie McCormick up in terms of her expertise. Her contract was terminated by me. She was not fired. She was a contractual employee. Was terminated by me because I had this discussion with her. Once she filed for public office, it is the usual policy of my administration that you have a contract for the city, you vacate that contract, and you pursue your dreams, which she did. And so let's look at behavior and politics. That young lady was put in a position that nobody in the history of the city, no freshman councilman was ever made chairman of the finance committee, ever. As a matter of fact, long-time tradition here, councilman will tell you, a freshman councilman comes on here for the first several months, sits and learns and be quiet. That's what Frank Russo said to every young councilman that came on this dais, and I was one of them. Ms. Astorino, you cheat yourself, because you only should go and look in the mirror and ask why some of these things are so political. We had countless discussions when I first came in here about social media. You do your husband and you do this city a great disservice by what you do, because you try to limit discussions and facts to only what you wish to produce. So to get up there and blame me, even in this recent investigation, it is clear, I believe, that the council president knew who retained this site. And there was nothing wrong with that. And if you want to go back to the minutes, I said that several times. Let's just identify who it is. We have wasted all this time. Who the hell cares? But it was political for a small city like us to have two websites to begin with. It looks from the very beginning of committees that were improper. This behavior on this council, I've never seen anything like it. I sat it next to a guy that ran against me, I think 2 times. And we got business done in this city. So for you to come up and continue to blame me, look in the mirror when you go home. Look in the mirror and see who's responsible for these things. And let me make one final comment here. I did not hire, I did not recommend, I did not screen. I had nothing to do with the intent, with the retention of Mr. Slattery. There are deep issues in that report that should be addressed, and addressed as soon as possible, and they involve conduct, part of which, ma'am, you are involved in one of the greatest hoax ever perpetrated in this city. And when it comes to the end, I hope that that's revealed so something like that never happens again. And finally, it was interesting to see Mr. Troyer reject the apology of Mr. Foltz, because it took a man to do that. And he's yet to apologize. Him trying to blame our police department, I think is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. I had nothing to do with Mr. Troyer being arrested, being charged, or anything else in his behavior. I have nothing to do, my own behavior I had to answer for. And I answer for it every day. I have nothing to do with that behavior. But to sit up here again tonight and act like there was some misdeed, some miscalculation of these charges, make no mistake about it. I talked to Mr. Troyer that night. I asked him to leave. As a matter of fact, I told him to leave. It would be in his best interest and the protection of the people in that neighborhood. So to act like this was just a simple thing, walking in the park, Mr. Foltz knows better, and this councilman should know better, and there's several people in that street that know what the facts really are. He's not a policeman. He's a councilman that's supposed to enact laws. So I've watched this whole thing unfold, and quite frankly, it's made the business of running this city damn near impossible for the last 2 years. And the one woman that came up here said it best. I hope the voters decide on what kind of city they want to live in. I don't believe they want to live in the kind of city we've seen here tonight and we've seen over the last 2 years. I don't believe that they do, because it's been a charade. This city is moving forward. We are growing. I'm having a councilwoman sitting over here. You want to talk about Brook Park Road? Do you remember what it was like? And these same forces were against that. They were against the airport deal. They're against everything that I've ever proposed in my whole career. And all of them have worked out for the positive of this city, without question. Cannot deny. Now, let's address the hotel up here. We had a member of this city council, the fire marshal, ordered that building to be closed. Over the last 4 years, I have witnessed an individual trying to patchwork the support system of that hotel. People fell through the floors. And if you don't believe that when we closed down on Brook Park Road, moved up there, have a little talk with our police department. Have a little talk with this police department. Nobody in this administration, be it the fire marshal, the fires, or the police department, have done anything to impair the progress of that individual, including his operation. He got business from the airport, all right, Mrs. Powers, illegally, in violation of our ordinance of the city, just like the one on Brook Park Road did. So if the people of this city, you're in that ward. You think the people of your ward want that hotel to operate as it's been? I don't know where you've been. You couldn't even name the names of the street tonight in your own ward. And finally, every time I hear about this flooding issue, Mayor Coyne 2 years ago proposed the resolution of how we could solve our problems, including you. Anybody that comes to your door and tells you that they're going to solve all these problems without more revenue is either a liar, a fool, or both, because that's the only way you're going to get it done. Retention basins in neighborhoods, improvements in sewers in neighborhoods cost millions of dollars. And I've told you this, Councilman, and that your tributary alone, your drainage, there's $5 million of work that has to be done. $5 million. You don't have it in this budget. And I can tell you here, I've sat with you for 4 years. I've seen you make no amendments to address any money for anything worthwhile at all. Because quite frankly, you don't even understand the budget process. So again, we have another meeting with the same thing. I'm glad that I got to speak. I'm glad that you got to speak here. And I just wish you could have been at the mayor's forum, because that's what should have been done. But I'm not going to sit here anymore and allow folks to come up here or get on this Facebook stuff. You don't see me on it, except if I'm talking to a friend, okay? Because it is a poison to good government in any city, any place. When the first advice that was given to me when I came back here was don't read it and don't participate in it. And to see good citizens being disparaged because they come up and honestly say something. You know, a lot of people, Patty, helped a lot of us in campaigns over the years. I don't ever call you helping me, but if you did, I would thank you for it. But that's the nature of the beast in the town. That's never going to change. And the good thing about it is folks get to come up here, whether they like me or don't like your husband or don't like you. They get to come up here and say what they have to say, and we get to respond. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Before we clap, please, it's my turn to, because the council president gets to speak last before we move the agenda. I would like to thank Mr. Slattery for coming forward and giving us a wonderful nights of comical entertainment. It's just as bad this time as it was the last time. And I will say one thing. Last meeting, I was asking council members what they're going to do with the report, and they stuck it into a committee. And then he comes here tonight to give us another report. This is the most unprofessional demonstration of how it should have been presented. He was hired by the city of Brook Park, and if you read his contract, the client is the city council. He doesn't ask the client. He does not ask the client how we want the information provided. He just does it on his own. He's a loose cannon. He's going to say, I'm in charge. I'm going to do it the way I want. He was hired to find facts. And last week, I sat there and said, what are we going to do with it? I've presented to you that he's made 12 mistakes in his report. He's made 6 other errors in his report. There's gross mistakes that are made in this report. I asked council, and what happened? Motion to put it into the finance committee, and it is what it is. Put it in committee. Yes, the majority can do that. We're not going to address it. What does he come here tonight and say? He comes here tonight and says, council's not acting quickly enough. Well, guess why council's not acting quickly enough? Because the intention of this thing is simply to generate campaign materials, because as the mayor has shown, not only does he have disdain for me, he's got disdain for my wife. Probably more for my wife than he does for me. I think it might be a tie. He talks about, the mayor talks, so the report, you know, he went through a bunch of stuff tonight. I'll listen to his comments, because to be honest with you, there were so many things that he said that were inaccurate. My hand was getting tired writing it all down. So I'll go through it again, and I'll present it to council so that you can see it. I've shown you before the mistakes he's made, and you guys all sit there saying, it's okay, let's spend $10,000 to do this. Okay, that's what the majority can do. You're allowed to do that. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the next issue. The next issue deals with the mayor makes an accusation. It's the first time he's ever seen a freshman committee person assigned as chairman of the finance committee. Well, guess what? As council president, when it was my time in turn to make those committee assignments, I asked the council people. I asked what they wanted. I says, provide me what your choices are. Nobody else wanted to do it. They didn't want to be chairman of the finance committee. So I had to find somebody to do it. I couldn't leave it empty. And right now, the mayor has a problem because Julie McCormick was named finance. And never happened before. Guess who our finance chairman is now? She jumped into it. She's a freshman committee. She's a freshman councilman. She came in midstream. I'm not blaming her for it. But he'll sit there and tell you there's something wrong with it, but he only tells you part of the facts. He doesn't tell you that nobody else wanted it. I asked him, I says, give me a list of the committees you want to serve on. Finance chair was blank. He talks about unusual to have 2 websites. What's also unusual, if you remember when he first came in, when I first came into office, he spent a lot of time on his mayor's forum on the city's website, talking about how bad things are, how it's impossible to work with Jim Astorino, how it's impossible to work with Julie McCormick. He talked about that on the mayor's forum, right from the very beginning. He didn't even have a chance. He didn't even give a chance to work with. But guess what? Have you seen the report I gave? 87 pieces of legislation. 67 of them passed without dissension. Our budget for 2016, our budget for 2017, passed within 3 weeks of when he presented it to council. It took him 2.5 months to present it to council. He waited until the middle of March to give us a budget. It took us 3 weeks to pass it. That doesn't sound like a dysfunctional council to me. It sounds like a council that's getting business done. He likes to say words because you all believe what he's saying. But you don't, but if you look at it, it ain't true. The rec center deal, that took 3 weeks to pass from when he introduced it. And the first 2 readings, we didn't even have the contract to look at. We weren't even given the contract. In fact, the one meeting had to be canceled because it got pointed out that, hey, this ordinance says that we're going to be approving this contract. Don't you think we should look at the contract before we approve it? Oh, yeah, we'll get that to you. What's dysfunctional? What's dysfunctional is his administration and trying to work with that administration. However, we're getting stuff done. There's only been 5 pieces of legislation that have not been passed in the last year and almost 2 years. None of them are his pieces of legislation. So every piece of legislation that he's introduced, that we've acted on, have been approved. What's he complaining about? He's complaining nothing's getting done. Probably because he's not getting anything done.
Hey, can the audience make a point of order?
I'll listen to you. What's your point of order?
My point of order is, it says remarks from the audience on any subject matter. The mayor didn't come up here as part of the audience and make any comments on the subject matter.
Neither did I, and he commented about me, sir. So your point of order is not well taken.
He commented on what the audience said. You're commenting on what he said.
He's commenting about me, sir.
In reaction to what the audience said.
That's what you may think so.
You're not doing it what the audience said.
I dealt with Mr. Slattery.
Right, him, that's fine.
Yeah, and his comical presentation, his unprofessional comical presentation. Come on, come on. You hear this? Come on, because their name's not on it, so they don't find it offensive. Their name's not on it, so they don't find it offensive.
That's not the point I'm trying to make.
And so, and then we'll get into what happened tonight. Excuse me, audience, excuse me, please. I've got the microphone here. What happened tonight at the end of the day? What happened tonight at the end of the day with that out-of-control party that we had on the West End last August? Out of control, where there were hundreds of kids there, hundreds. This wasn't 10, 20, 30, 40 people. Think about your neighborhood and thinking about having 300 kids walking around, some of them high school age, and watching cases of beer being carried in, where your high school age kid is going to this party with hundreds of kids. And it's out of control. And a resident calls and a ward councilman goes back there. And at the end of the day, today, what happened? The host of the party got cited for yelling at the councilman. The councilman got cited for yelling back. At the end of the day, that's what happened. All the other stuff, it happens. Charges are made, everything's done. One man pleads guilty. The other man pleads no contest to 2 charges, yelling at each other. Thank you for your professionalism out there, and thank you for the courtesy. When the mayor was speaking, nobody had trouble keeping their mouth shut and listening to him. At the end of the day, one person was found guilty of shouting at somebody. The other person pled no contest, and the judge found him guilty of shouting back. That's such a big thing. Remember, the party was in August. It took 2 months before they got charged with shouting at each other. We don't like to hear it, and we don't sit there and say, wow. That's not, yeah, I know, you say wow.
You know what I think
But
you
at the
should
end of
do?
the day, when
I
we're
think you
dealing with
should
today, what we're dealing with,
Panel the safety committee to hear the testimony of those police officers, sir. That's what you ought to hear, not your.
the case went through the court.
Okay, why
The
don't
case
you
went through the
subpoena
court, the
police
prosecutor.
officers to come in here and
Thank
testify before council.
Thank you for allowing me. I kept quiet while you were bad-mouthing my wife.
Sir, your wife got up in that pit herself. I treated her like a lady.
Like you did. You treated her like you treat ladies. I'll go along with that.
Okay, I'm calling point of order on that one.
Point of order, man.
Number 9, you shall not use offensive language to fellow elected or appointed officials in a public thing. We do not start bad-mouthing each other's wives and family members. I'm appalled. I would like to call a roll to move forward because this is pointless. We could do this for 6 more hours if we had, and I would like to get to the business that we need to do.
I'll support that.
You'll support that.
Me?
What are you supporting? There's no motion on the floor. 'cause there's
Roll.
no 9:30.
Call a roll
Let's
to move
No, I'm
forward
gonna
to
roll
go
on your point of
to-
order first.
I just explained my point of order. Rule number 9.
I'm going to look at rule number 9.
Please do.
Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion that we move to item N.
There's a point of order that's been called, Councilman. I have to rule on that point of order before we can do anything else, as you well know.
I don't think you're gonna rule on it, though. You didn't even recognize it, so I'm still gonna make a motion that we move forward and go to item
I'm
N.
not going to entertain your motion because there was a point of order raised. I'm going to address that, Mr. Salvatore, so you can please wait. Now, could you explain your point of order again?
Offensive language to, I'll read it verbatim, offensive language to fellow elected or appointed officials or to the attending public. They shall not personally attack either physically or verbally any elected or appointed official. When we start attacking how we treat women, that is offensive. That has nothing to do with why we're here. This is appalling. I would like to move forward to get things finished today.
I don't know what the offensive language is. Can you identify that?
Would you like to recap what you were talking about, how the mayor treats women and vice versa between the two of you right now?
When he was speaking out of order?
That's not the point
You're
that
okay
I'm
with,
bringing.
you're okay
I
with
am
that?
talking
You're
about-
okay with allowing interruptions?
I am not.
Okay. I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to overrule your point of order.
Okay.
But I've concluded my remarks,
Thank you.
so we have completed the response from council on the audience participation. That concludes item L on the agenda. We'll move to letter M, which is introduction of ordinance and resolutions on first reading. We'll move to item number 1, which is ordinance number 11004-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Company to complete storm sewer repairs near 14527 Fayette Boulevard and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend.
Support.
There's a motion to suspend. It's been properly supported. I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Suspension's been approved.
Motion to adopt.
Support.
There's been a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on adoption? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on adoption.
Scott?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Ordinance number 11,004-2017 has been adopted under suspension of the rules.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Salvatore?
just a question, I just want to make sure I heard the vote right. Is that we're both adoption and suspension, both 7-zip?
Correct.
No dissension at all, yes.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is ordinance number 11,005-2017.
Introduced as council as a whole, approving the lot consolidation of permanent parcel numbers 344-06-016 and 344-06-017, located at 5420 West
Audience, please, there's too
140th
much noise
Street
back there.
in a U5-C zone and declaring an emergency.
Motion suspend.
Support.
There's a motion to suspend. It's been properly supported. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Scott?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
What's the
Move,
count?
move to adopt.
Suspension's been approved. It's a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Troyer already got it.
Yeah, it was 7-0.
Support.
You're supporting it?
Motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion under adoption? I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Troyer?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Ordinance number 11,005-2017 has been adopted under suspension of the rules. That concludes the items under first reading. We'll move to letter N, which is second reading of ordinances and resolutions. Item number 1 is ordinance number 11,002-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, amending section 1348 of the Brook Park Codified Ordinances entitled Front Porches and declaring an emergency.
Ordinance number 11,002-2017 has had its second reading. We'll move to item number 2.
I read the number. Guide me into
Oh.
it.
Item number 2 is, I'm sorry, resolution number 26-2017.
Introduced by Councilman Salvatore, Bergio, and Scott, Troyer, McDonald, Mancini, Council President Astorino, and Mayor Coyne, designating the month of October 2017 as Breast Cancer Awareness in the city of Brook Park, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend.
Support.
Been a motion to suspend. It's been supported. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on suspension.
Troyer,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Suspension's been approved.
Move to adopt.
Support.
There's been a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on adoption? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on adoption.
Mancini,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
Resolution number 26-2017 has been adopted under suspension of the rules. That concludes the items under second reading. We have no items under third reading of the ordinance and resolutions. So the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion so made. Support.
Motion to adjourn. I would ask clerk to please call the roll on adjournment.
Troyer,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Powers. Yes. Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
This meeting is now adjourned at 9:50. Thank you very much.